Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. Well, you can never say that Pierre is not a man of his word. Pierre made a promise on Wednesday.
Got news for Justin Trudeau. You've ruined Christmas for Canadians. Common sense conservatives are going to ruin your vacation as well. We are going to put in thousands of amendments at committee and in the House of Commons, forcing all-night, round-the-clock voting to block your $20 billion of inflationary spending and the rest of your economically destructive plans until you agree to our demand to take the tax off farmers, First Nations, and families. You will have no rest until the tax is gone.
And the Conservatives did not back down from that. They have been in the House of Commons since yesterday morning, filibustering the entire House, trying to force Justin Trudeau to remove the carbon tax on home heating, farmers, and First Nations Canadians. This is what the House of Commons has looked like today.
Mr. Majinda. The committee will now wait for the end of the electronic voting period before continuing its proceeding.
However, as you might expect, as MPs get tired, inhibitions can become untethered, which is what happened at about 1:45 last night when Greg Fergus took the chair. The National Post dropped a story today about the carbon tax marathon. Here's an excerpt from that article. Speaker Greg Fergus took over the Speaker's chair around 11:35 p.m. and was welcomed by quips from the Conservatives about his controversial video sent to outgoing interim Ontario Liberal leader John Fraser. Quote, "What's with the robes? This isn't a Liberal convention," end quote, shouted Conservative MP John Nader. Just past midnight, Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne appeared in the chamber roughly at the same time as a group of Conservative MPs started fooling around with 2 small jars of Play-Doh. Around 12:30 a.m., Justice Minister Arif Virani had obviously had enough of the evening and fell asleep in his chair, eventually overtly lying his head on his arms. Across the aisle, Bloc Québécois MP Sébastien Lemire was engrossed in a game of virtual Uno on his tablet. Sleep got the better of many MPs when the National Post returned at 9 a.m. Friday morning. Several backbench Liberals had their eyes closed and were remarkably still between votes, taking 14-minute power naps.
Because yesterday's session didn't end, it seems that the parliamentary video system doesn't retain more than 12 hours of video on a live stream, so unfortunately this video won't be available until it ends. But one thing you can count on in the middle of the night is that you need fuel. And who better to deliver that than your party leader? You know, that's a leader. I'm just saying. I
saw this video this afternoon and I just smiled. It was kind of cute. These poor MPs who have been in this house for, I don't even know how long at that point. Hours upon hours upon hours, and their leaders just coming in with McDonald's for them. It was kind of endearing.
Yeah, that was probably at around the 15-hour mark, because remember the House sat down, I think yesterday around 9 or 10 o'clock, and this was after midnight, I believe. So that's a long time to be cooped up in there, and with all of the Liberals. Those are probably the last people that they wanted to spend that much time with. But I've had to be a part of many, overnight 24-hour sessions when it comes to work on many different occasions. And the one thing that I learned is that as down as people can get just because they're away from their homes, they're away from their families, they're tired, they're grumpy, the number one morale boost that you can do as a leader is you can bring them food, you can bring them drinks, you can bring them just something to energize them. And that's exactly what Pierre did there. So he could have sent out an errand boy, he could have sent out staffers, and no doubt, that's probably what Justin did on the other side. Justin, I would hazard to guess he wasn't even there. He was probably remote.
Well, and Pierre at the beginning was in Montreal for this. He was able to do every vote electronically except for one. As far as I understand, he had a fundraiser scheduled that night, and he also had promised to visit 2 synagogues that were recently victims of harassment or attacks. So he had driven back from Montreal, or maybe he flew, I'm not sure. But he arrived back from Montreal bringing all this food for his team because he brought the McDonald's. The article says he brought, I think it was like
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, KFC and maybe Taco Bell. I don't know. He just brought a whole bunch of food for his staff. And I wanted to talk a bit about the room that they're in. That is the opposition lobby. So where that is located is, if you imagine the House of Commons and you see all of the MPs are facing towards the middle of the House,
and you see that wall behind them.
Yeah, behind them on either side of the House are the MP lobbies. So there's the government lobby, and then on the other side where Pierre and all the Conservatives were is the opposition lobby. And it's not a huge room. It runs the length of the House, but it's not really all that wide. What would you say?
It's probably about 50 feet wide, something like that. So there's enough room for some desks, from some computers, and there's counters in there with microwaves and sinks and stuff like that. So there's not a lot of room.
Yeah, and there's a from what I recall, there's a like a drink fountain, but it's only water and I think seltzer water. And then there's like some chafing dishes. Sometimes they get catering for late nights like this, for example. It was actually pretty cool. We got to go into this room when we went to Ottawa back in June. Our MP brought us in this room, but the lobby itself, because it's the opposition lobby, it's not just the Conservatives that are in there. There's NDP and Bloc and Green, etc. in that area. So
just imagine all of this is going on, and those other parties are there, and maybe their leaders didn't bring their food, but it goes on.
Beautiful crowd we have here. I thought I was going to meet a group of exhausted. How's that on the other side?
I'm really mad you're not here.
I'm sure they've been chanting your name.
You're in the riding.
I was in Pierre Elliott Trudeau's former riding. But in all seriousness, thank you for your understanding. I appreciate it, and I want to thank this gentleman for whatever he's about to say.
There's other party here, so if you guys can please...
They're having a party?
They're having a party too? Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that guy works at the House of Commons. He's basically saying there's other parties here. Could you please keep it?
Yeah, because the NDP and Bloc, etc., share that opposition lobby as well, and they're all tired as well.
Yeah. So then one of the Conservative MPs chirped back, "Oh, they're having a party too." So, you gotta love the late night trolling of the other parties, but it just goes to show that these guys are people too, and they're doing this to try to give Canadians some relief. I'm sure they would rather not be there. I'm sure they'd rather be home, probably asleep at this point, and getting some rest. But some of them have been there, and they will continue to be there until this is done. So this is going to go on for maybe 48, maybe more, more hours. Because
this went on past 10 a.m. this morning, Friday, December the 8th, as of us recording this, it's Friday still. So because it went on past 10 a.m., they canceled the entire day's worth of business in the House. So that means that the Liberals were not able to try to push any of their bills through before the winter break.
Because this is still the same session as yesterday. That's the thing. So they have to finish that day's business before they can get to the next day's business. So the Liberals can't enter in their business. They can't vote on any of their stuff until all of this is done. And that's why all of these votes and amendments and all of this has contributed to this legislative filibuster, as they call it. And for those that don't know, a filibuster is typically a political term, and what it normally means is a just drawn out speech that's intended to waste time and prevent the other side from doing what they actually want. And it can be very effective in delaying votes, in delaying legislation, and it can be effective for good reasons. When you're the party that's trying to get your legislation through, it's very annoying. But when you're the party that is trying to stop legislation, it's very useful. So that's what essentially is going on here. It's just a legislative filibuster, and the Conservatives are just doing whatever they can to grind government to a halt so that they can prevent Trudeau from passing this additional $20 billion in spending, and try to force them to remove the carbon tax, which Trudeau influenced the Senate from all accounts, which he's not supposed to do, to completely gut Bill 2 C234. So the Conservatives said, "You want to play that game? All right, fine. Well, this is what we're going to do." So the difference is the Conservatives are playing within the rules of the system. Trudeau didn't really, but what else is new?
Now, this morning, Andrew Scheer, who's the Conservative House leader, he looked quite tired, but he met with reporters to give them an update.
Good morning. We are just about halfway through this Axe the Carbon Tax voting marathon. And it's a little bit after 10 o'clock, so we have successfully killed a day of government business. This is one less day that Justin Trudeau will have to implement his destructive agenda that is dividing Canadians and driving up prices, and of course his plan to quadruple the carbon tax. That's what this is all about. The carbon tax is really hurting Canadian families as we head into the Christmas season. More and more Canadians are experiencing the tragic choice of heating their homes or putting food on their tables. And a recent food price report has indicated that next year families are going to have to pay another $700 for groceries. And that's on top of all the higher prices that Justin Trudeau's inflationary deficits and, of course, his carbon tax have caused. So that's what this fight is all about. And Justin Trudeau can end it all. He can stop this right now if he chooses to listen to Canadians, axe the tax off of farmers, families, and First Nations. There is no question that the carbon tax is a big reason for grocery store price increases. And only Conservatives are fighting to take the tax off the farmers who grow the food, the truckers who transport the food, so that Canadians can afford a better Christmas meal.
So now we go live. This is what's going on.
This is what's going on right now as of us recording this.
So
and it is 11:05 p.m. Eastern on the 8th of December.
Yeah. Like this is what it's come down to, folks. So the Conservative messaging here is that the tax has to come off. Is Trudeau going to relent? Probably not. But his MPs are going to pay for it. They're going to be exhausted. They are going to be just completely drained of any and all energy. This is probably a bit of a morale hit to them as well. And it's an interesting way to send them into the Christmas break. Essentially a intellectual beatdown.
Well, and if what I've been hearing is true from both Conservatives and former Liberals, people inside the Liberal Party are not happy with Trudeau. I imagine they're all not happy with this budget bill. And they're going to be especially not happy that they're going to be in this house for like probably 30 plus hours straight, taking votes every 15 minutes for this bill that they don't really fully support. Like they're probably pissed with Trudeau.
Yeah, for those counting, we're at the 37-ish hour mark. This is going to go on even longer. It's going to go on all throughout the night. It went on literally all throughout last night. and Pierre was introducing motions just about the carbon tax at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Disorder is unleashing in the House of Commons. On the other side, I'm trying to resolve the difference we have before us. Madam Speaker, I'm proposing that we end the voting on agreement to axe the tax for farmers, First Nations, and families for good. Thank you.
La prochaine mise au vote.
The next question.
Leader of the opposition.
I believe you will find unanimous consent for
Order.
motion that all provisions related to the business of supply be adopted on division, provided that A, the House send a message to the Senate demanding that they pass Bill C-234 in its original form. B,
Okay, there is no consent, so we have to proceed.
the motion is to remove the carbon tax.
No, there's no unanimous consent. Of order, the honourable leader of the official opposition.
I'd like to move for unanimous consent that the House axe the tax.
And that's what's been going on. You have MPs that are knitting throughout the whole time. People playing, as Fox was saying from that article, playing, games on their tablets between votes as they wait for the next one to get set up, because this is what happens.
And an interesting fact that we learned while we were taking a tour of the House of Commons with our MP is that the MPs in the House, well, number one, they're not allowed food. They're allowed something to drink, but it has to be a clear liquid. They are not allowed things like coffee or tea in the House of Commons while they're working. So no caffeine for these guys.
Yeah, so if they want to have something, they have to exit the House of Commons. They have to go out through the back. And you can see that wall there where all the curtains are. That's on that side. That is behind there. That's the government lobby. And that's where they can get their refreshments and everything like that. So
one interesting thing about the electronic voting is that the software that they use to do it is facial recognition software, so that the MP cannot assign somebody else to vote, or that there's no fraud in somebody grabbing the MP's device and voting for them. So these people have to be awake every 15 minutes to input a vote, like even if they're not in the House.
But this is going to go on. We thought about live streaming this, not commenting on it, but just live streaming. But
it's actually quite boring.
It is. All it is, like there's really nothing much said. All that's really happening is votes are being taken. And the interesting thing is that every one of these votes, the Conservatives and what we've seen, also the NDP, are standing up and asking for a recorded vote. And what that means is it takes a lot longer. So it's interesting that the NDP are actually joining the Conservatives in kind of prolonging this, because don't forget, they voted for Bill C-234, as did the Bloc.
But they also voted in favor of the budget, if I'm not mistaken, because they're still in that confidence and supply agreement with the Liberals. So they're voting for it, but they're also slowing things down. I think that is very telling, especially considering that confidence and supply agreement is set to end at the end of the year.
Yeah, and we'll see if 𝘨𝘦𝘬𝘐 really does pull it. If he doesn't, his party is going to be really unhappy with him. So time will tell on that. But this is the equivalent of a government blockade that the Conservatives are doing, and it, as Fox said, very interesting that the NDP are kind of supporting them in this. So, they're straddling that line, and I think come Christmas they're gonna come over that line, and everything is going to be on its head when February comes for the government.
Well, no doubt the NDP are hearing from their constituents, I can't afford a nice Christmas meal with my family. I can't afford gifts for my loved ones. Or worse, I may be evicted from my home and I have nowhere to go and it's winter time. Just all these horrible things that they must be hearing from their constituents as well. Like
I heard from my brother the other day, he lost his job, and he's saying, we don't know what to do. We don't have any money in our bank account, and I was counting on that job to pay my bills. I don't know what I'm going to do. So, it affects everyone. Canadians are forced to sleep outside in tents, sleep in their cars, so they're not getting a good night's sleep. So I think it's only fair that if the Liberals want to pass this agenda before Christmas, that they have to lose sleep as well. And as we said, you want this legislation, you're going to pay for it, just like Canadians are paying for your carbon tax every single day.